Hello, good afternoon or good morning. Today's Yud Shvat. So, Boy Bayom, we're learning the Sicha, first Sicha, we're still in the first Sicha of the Farbrengen of Chav, Tavshin Chavav, 1966, from the Rebbe's Farbrengen of Yud Shvat. And I'm learning about the idea of Mazari B'chaim. And so we're going to continue, maybe go a little bit into the second Sicha, and we'll see if we'll continue tomorrow or not. So the Rebbe is saying, we learned that the idea is that Mazari B'chaim, Afu B'chaim means not just that Mazari B'chaim, Afu B'chaim, that we look that the so to say, if the fact that the children are alive, that gives life to Yaakov Avinu, to the Nasi. This is the contrary. The fact that you see Zari B'chaim, the very fact that the Chassidim, the Talmidim are alive, the Zaroi, is only because of B'chaim. He's the kind of tzaddik that his whole life, not even secondary, that primary, he has no secondary, but the primary of tzaddik's whole existence is ruchnius, and he gives that to his talmidim, to his zarei, and he has no limitations, like the Alter Rebbe says in the Geras HaKodesh, because there's no more restrictions of the guf and other restrictions that the tzaddik has while he's in the physical body in this world. So then he's able to give chaim to his zaroi, both gashmis and ruchnis, because the yid's gashmis is ruchnis, and therefore the fact that the zari is a chaim is because of chaim, and therefore it's oisi oifin, like he says, exactly as you see the zari, the descendants, the talmidim are alive, is because of chaim. So now the Rebbe continues in Sif Tes, like this. Sorry, Sif Yud, in chapter 10. This is understood. So the question is, so the problem we have to get over here, so there's really no bechira. It's not like if you choose to be b'chaim, then who b'chaim? He's chaim. The tzaddik is b'chaim. The fact that you're alive is because who b'chaim. So what happens if I decide not to live a life of b'chaim, of the chassid, of the zari? Seemingly, it wouldn't affect the tzaddik, because the tzaddik, anyways, is a chaim ruchnim. His whole being was a chaim ruchnim. So what's like, just like the zari b'chaim, afu b'chaim, there seems to still be a dependency. Here he's going to address that issue in Sif Yud. It's not an easy cut. Moving from this understood gam goydluha achrais and mutel tzakol echad mizari. From here we see the responsibility, and it's understood the responsibility of zari, of the chassidim, of the talmidim, of the descendants. We're talking about both physically and spiritually. We have to be Zar B'chaim. Why? The Rebbe explains. So if the Zari, if the descendants are in a situation of Shina, means you're asleep, you're spiritually asleep. Even if the person is seemingly breathing, and his eyes are open, her eyes are open, and you're thinking about things, stam things, you're alive. You're not zara. You're not living a life of a chassid. Like the Rebbe says, Bab Maises, grandmother stories. That's what interests you. Is harizeh echad mishishim. So it says when a person who's kind of sleeping spiritually, even if you're technically up, your mind is wondering about shtusim, about the foolishness. So what does it say? That 1/60th of death of a person is when they're sleeping. The tzarech lady, therefore, a person chassid has to know. It's not just affecting you and your family, the fact that you're asleep. You're not spiritually alive, you're not zari b'chaim. And here the Rebbe says this is the b'chein, this is the bottom line. That although it's not in a kav, it's not a line that is point A, point B. It's circular. Meaning to say, the Rebbe says that the very fact that if you're asleep, so you mean Zari is not b'chaim, so it's not just affecting you and your family. And the zehu inin shnegei la'oisei echad affects he, talking about the Rebbe, Sheidaisef Besekas of Gemara, that the Gemara says, Yaakov Avinu loy meis. What's again the proof that he's alive is that you see that he's giving life to Zari. But if the Zari is not alive, then it's a Shaila. If he's b'chaim, then because where we see he's alive, if he's alive, and his children to be alive. So if his children are not alive, then where's the hu b'chaim? Are you going to say, what do you mean? We just give a whole explanation until now. The fact that he's a hu b'chaim is because Yaakov, when we say Yaakov Avinu leimes, because you have to understand what means Yaakov is alive. That Yaakov's whole life is chaim ruchim. So why would it be dependent on Zari? But the very fact that the Gemara still says Ma'azari b'chaim Yaakov b'chaim, that where do we see it that he was b'chaim? Is the fact that he's giving life to Zari. So in the circular of things, if Zari is not b'chaim, then maybe that affects hu b'chaim. That pasha affects the metzius of the Rebbe. The kiven shebal ha'ilul maser nafshe avur kol lechem mizari, and here it say Friedrich Rebbe was meiser nefesh on all his descendants, and all his zara, and all his chassidim, and all his talmidim. Leirak bo'ev shel his chalkus b'hainu shlefi mispar hachasidim yesh lachshev kamer going b'meshach hayom hugdeshu avur kol chesed. You make a division, right? If he has 24 hours a day, and let's say he gives who knows how many hours a day to chassidim, and there's 10,000 chassidim, so he gives 5.5 of a second to a chassid. That's not the way it works. When he's giving himself over, and the Rebbe is giving himself over to the chassid, he's maser b'chol atzmusi, his whole essence. Not just the small attention that you could imagine. You could understand how could it be if he has so many chassidim that he give over his whole essence to every chassid. That's why he's a Rebbe. So at the end of the day, is in the circular of things, because the Gemara says Mazar b'chaim afu b'chaim, although it's a proof. Seemingly, it's a siba. It's not a siba. It's a mesuvav or a simon. It's a sign that hu b'chaim is because Zar b'chaim. But if Zar is not b'chaim, it shouldn't really affect if he's b'chaim. If his whole chaim is chaim rochnim. But it's a simon and a siba. If Zar b'chaim, that means that the Rebbe's life is it affects how the Rebbe's life is. That's the Rebbe saying over here. And the Rebbe's life, so to say, is dependent on Zara. You have to be alive, meaning be up, not spiritually sleeping. Moving, nice if here the Rebbe says another point. We have to get rid of the mistake that the world says. Seemingly, every year you go further away from the Yom HaPtira, from the Yahrzeit. Seemingly, every year the message gets weaker, or the influence gets weaker. That's usually the natural way of things. We have to know the contrary, and we see that Pasha B'Gashim is today. We see how things are getting stronger year by year. If it's alive, it's not just something that's like you throw a ball, and as the ball gets further away from the koyach hamaisa, from the hand that throws it, it weakens and it falls. But here the ball is moving with the same chaim. The chassid is alive because the Rebbe is alive. The longer you are, the older you are, the more wisdom you are, the more effective you are. So at the Zari being chaim, which means hu b'chaim, is the Rebbe is meaning more alive now than he was before. But the Rebbe made it dependent on us. It's our choice how things are. It's incredible achrayus, incredible responsibility as a chassid. We can't force him. You have to make the choice. We tell the person choose the life. B'chaim b'patach, with the patach, the b'chaim, how you do it, choose the life. B'chaim means like the life. I mean, what else should you choose? The life of a chassid. I'm telling you, I'm explaining to you, choose the life, but at the end of the day, the choice is yours. There's a whole Sicha, this idea of Bechir Chavshis, like a chassid, like a father who says to his children, you have different options. I'm telling you, please take this. This is a good piece of thing to take, but it's your choice to take it. And he stands the son next to the good spot and says, this is the good spot, take this spot. Choose this. He stands, puts his hand and shows you this is what you should take. What's this mean? We show the person what it means to be a chassid. The Rebbe shows the person what it means to be a chassid. The beautiful portion. Gufa Asl. The things follow the head. And if the head of the chassid follows the Rebbe, then you're choosing the right things. And this, your head was your Nasi is a person who his whole life is spiritual. And he's alive. But on the contrary, he's even more alive than he was before. Every year gets stronger. As the tzaddik elevates every year on the yard site, he elevates with him, and and if his life, if his existence is in Zarei, then the chassid elevates. And takes within the whole body, which is all the chassidim, all the yidden. That's why we have Fabringen on the day of his fathers. As the Rebbe writes in the Previous Rebbe writes in his letter on the yahrzeit of his father, the Rebbe Rashab. Chazik is calling to strengthen yourself and strengthen the things that matter to the Rebbe. Is and the Rebbe put himself totally into his inyanim, so that the chassidim who were involved in that, they have the Rebbe with them. And therefore, when the chazarim, when the children are alive, that makes, like I said in the circular, it's a siman and a sipa of hu b'chaim, why the Rebbe is alive. When we add life, and therefore the Zari get it back as the circle continues. What is the bracha? And revealed down in this world, and blessing manifests, blessings for children, chaye for gesund, mazayne for parnas, and a way of revich, and a way of an abundance. The next Sicha is kind of long, but let's start at least 10 minutes into it. We'll see if we continue it. Because the Rebbe is saying that this idea of Mazar B'chaim, and what does it mean, what does the Rebbe want from us as individuals, the Rebbe takes into the next Sicha. Based on what we said before, when we look and we analyze how the Friedrich Rebbe was with his Chassidim, she is Zar B'chaim, and he wanted the Chassidim to his Zarei to be alive. In Star Peshnein, we see two things. The Churahim base Ktsav base Minakotzel Kotzev, Mamish on two sides of the spectrum. The Friedrich Rebbe didn't want just that the Chassidim should be good to Yidden, fine Jews, and they should do Torah mitzvahs in a complete way. And the Tava, he demanded from the Chassidim, not only from himself, but from the others, it's not just completion, but absolute completion. Meaning, the Rebbe explains, Friedrich Rebbe wanted those who were on the level. He didn't demand something from someone he didn't think that person, he or she, could reach it. But in someone that he felt was there, it's not just enough to learn. You have to learn with mamish, the passion. The chilib rechima means the love and the fear of God. Not just to learn Psavart Chassidus. You should be totally double, totally cleaving when you learn Chassidus. Not to totally lose yourself. Be like on that thread in between. You shouldn't lose yourself. You should be yourself, but to the highest level connected to Hashem. But the fact that you're double and you're cleaving when you learn Chassidus, it should show itself in your general behavior. How you eat, how you drink. You eat like a chassid, you drink like a chassid, you eat like a chassid, and drink like a chassid who learns Chassidus. That you're eating the gashmis, but you're not. It's not what motivates you. It's a hard madrega. As it's known as brought down in Chassidus. And the talks, in the early years, the Rebbe demanded that the Chassidim should be learning with Tefillah, Brachima, with Abba V'Yira, learning Chassidus, and you should see how the Chassidus brings you such a dvegas that it affects your not just when you're learning, but how it affects your day-to-day life, how you eat, how you sleep, etc. So much so, if those Chassidim who didn't want to listen and didn't want to live up to the expectations of the Friedrich Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe had harsh words to say to that person. The Rebbe says, imagine something here. We're not talking about Jews. Not talking about the Friedrich Rebbe says, put on tefillin Well, what's the matter with you? Why aren't you learning Torah? The Jew is learning. The Jew is doing mitzvahs and he's being mahadrin at the chassidus. He's not excelling in it. He's completing it, but not excelling in it. What's the point and what's the necessity? Is that to be stuck harsh to that chassid who doesn't want to bring to the level that you see. You see Av and Mir in the learning, and you see how chassidus affects their day-to-day life. Fine, they're learning to do. They're doing what they should do. What do you want? Leave them alone. V'af became. These are my words. V'af became. The Rebbe says, the Frierdiker Rebbe wasn't mevatel. The Frierdiker Rebbe didn't give up. He demanded excellence from his chassidus. And he didn't ask it once, a second time, and many times. Not just one person, but for many people. And at the same time, you think so the Frierdiker Rebbe is holding a level where he's demanding excellence and imamish that each chassid should excel to the highest level of performance. But at the same time, on the other side of the extreme, so the Rebbe says, he's asking when it came to someone else, that they were this Torah mitzvah was new to them, or they weren't holding there yet. And you could really say anything to them because they don't have no knowledge, or they're not connected, or have gotten disconnected. The only thing the Frierdiker Rebbe could tell that person is, no, you're a Yid. You're Yaakov's son. That's all he could tell the person. The person was so disconnected, was so uninterested. Ben b'nai Yitzchak, your grandson of Yitzchak. Ben b'nai Avram, your great grandson of Avram. The Frierdiker Rebbe just say the only thing you can tell that person, remember, you're born a Jew. You're a Jew. It means, why do you have to tell him? The Rebbe says, because that also was forgotten, that the person's even Jewish. You can imagine what kind of person we're talking about. A love, he's mastered by lulav, nefesh. He didn't just give Mesiras Nefesh and demand excellence from the person who's holding that he can or she can do excellence, but even the person who only just needed to hear basic words. When I say basic words, the Frierdiker Rebbe says means reminding the person you're a Jew. The Frierdiker Rebbe didn't say, okay, that for those people I don't have time. The Frierdiker Rebbe had the total same attention and the same Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice for the person who the message to that person was, you're Jewish. This is the broadening the whole story of what it means to be a Rebbe, and what it means to be a chassid. The same energy and focus and desire that the Frierdiker Rebbe had to demand from chassid that we're holding there, he or she, to have mahadrim means excellence, is the same dedication he had for the person who just needed to hear he's a Jew or she's a Jew. Even you have some people. You're not talking about a person who never knew that they're Jewish. You have some people that knew that they're Jewish. They once knew and they left. They left. That's it. That's very that's seemingly. You say, okay, Mela, the person who's a chassid and the Rebbe's demanding excellence is one thing. You have a chassid, you have a Yid who doesn't even know they're Jewish. You can tell them they're Jewish. What about the person who was once there and left? Why does the Rebbe have to put time into that person? That person chose to leave. The Shano Pira, she left. That's seemingly very severe for the person who was there and then left. Can't claim I didn't know, seemingly. The Frierdiker Rebbe didn't give up on that person either, of course. And he was also tried everything, and he was self-sacrificed to bring that person back. And there's many, many stories of that. Safek, Kuli Hai, Uli Hai. It wasn't even a sure thing that he's going to be successful, whether he would doubt or doubt of a doubt, that maybe possibly he could find some way to bring that person back to Yiddishkeit, back to where the person comes from. I'll give an example. When the Frierdiker Rebbe was in Russia, some places that the Frierdiker Rebbe had to send someone just to teach Aleph base, like we see today. That's much more common. But then it was more of a novelty. It was more of a rare thing that's what the people were holding. The Frierdiker Rebbe would send someone to the farthest place just to teach the Aleph base. What does it mean to say Kametz Aleph of Kametz Beis Ba? And for someone else, the Frierdiker Rebbe was sending a mashpia to teach people that comes Thursday night, getting ready for Shabbos, be up a whole night. Means what the Rebbe is saying over here is there's no compromise. We're not compromising excellence for basic, and we're not compromising basic for excellence. The Previous Rebbe demanded 100% from both sides of the spectrum. Where there needed to be encouragement for someone to stay up a whole year's night learning Chassidus and to be holding that the Chassidus should penetrate their day-to-day behavior, the Previous Rebbe demanded over and over again from that chassid to find the excellence. And from the place where the Previous Rebbe had to send someone just to teach a boy and girl, a Yiddish boy and girl, how to read Hebrew and to make a bracha, 100% there. It was not one side was compromised for the other. The spectrum was 100% Mesiras Nefesh in both, because that's true emes. But Derech said, the Rebbe says, for instance, La'achrikin, even afterwards, I guess after Russia, when he came to the United States, meaning, the Friedrich Rebbe still didn't compromise. He had two sides. The Asid Shiva Shabbat Chassidus, he set up the Tem Chitmim that he wanted the Chassidim should learn Chassidus on the highest level. The Gam Lieben Danigla and learn Talmud, Mishnah, and Shulchan Aruch, Yinika Shalim and Choder, or Bechayis, Bechmimis V'chaz Chassidus, and that shouldn't just be any learning. The learning that you see that here's a Chassid who's learning. But Babashan at the same time, Kivad Yeshnam Gam Yiladim Ke'elu She'enim Kabel Chinach Dati. Friedrich Rebbe set up, then he's talking about the release time. That there were Jewish people who weren't going to Jewish education. Not a religious education or Jewish education. At all. They had no Yiddishkeit. I feel Yiddish, not even the Yiddishists, the people who speak Yiddish, never mind Lashon HaKodesh. And Mechankim about the Sefer Ma'amachti, they were going to public school, like the Rebbe says. They had no interaction with Yiddishkeit. And the Rebbe set up release time, the Rebbe set up the institutions that they start teaching this. The Jewish child who has no education, start with the basics of alphabet. And they had to teach in English, because you can't teach it to them in Hebrew or Yiddish. They're still not able to be taught it properly. You have to teach it to mamish from the beginning of the beginning. And in order to be able to do that, he had to compromise. He had not compromise, but he had to dedicate. Or maybe he could have dedicated his time someplace else. He dedicated his effort and his time to set up that people should go out and teach the young children in public school, and whether they're children actually or like children, meaning to say they're children on the spiritual passport, to know what it means to be a Yid. And he put in all his time as long as the thing gets done. And these two sides of the spectrum, in order to get it done, Friedrich Rebbe had to put in self-sacrifice to set up the yeshiva, so people should be learning Chassidus, that there should be Chassidim in the United States. And at the same time, Friedrich Rebbe needed Mesiras Nefesh, that there should be public school kids knowing what it means to be a Yid. Asik ba'osim Mesiras Nefesh, it was the same Mesiras Nefesh. Because etzim, something that's atzmi, is not dedicated one side more than the next. Ba'osim was with the same passion and same vitality. Okay, we're going to stop here, and let's see. Hold on, I'm just going to see if the page isn't showing properly. Just give me a second here. So we're holding. I think we're holding 12. And let's see how much longer this Sicha is. A pretty long Sicha. Now let's do one more Sif, and then we'll see, maybe we can finish it on Thursday, Friday. The Rebbe said, ideas like this. She understands this is the whole point. When a person starts making calculations, this I could do, this I can't do. I can only demand so much, I can't demand more. I feel cheshbon the kedusha, even if it's you're trying to make a holy calculation. There's certain mitzvahs where the Torah says this is what we call a light mitzvah. The Torah says there's certain severe mitzvahs. Right? We see clearly from the punishments. There's kares, there's malchus, and there's not even malchus. And there's the rules. Sometimes you push one thing away from the next. Sometimes you push something else. Sometimes this could push, and sometimes this gets pushed. And you can look in the Shulchan Aruch. What are you supposed to do in certain situations? And so someone would say, the Friedrich Rebbe could open the Shulchan Aruch and say, was he obligated to put in this Mesiras Nefesh? But when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh of sacrifice, when you realize that a Yid is missing something, whether it's the highest level of to excel in Yiddishkeit, or whether it's the basics of alphabets. Because this Yid who's lacking something is like any other Yid, which is a part of God in that person. In the first chapter of Tanya, it's not just for special Jews. Every Jew has a godly soul, which is no matter who that person he or she is. Where's the person connect? Not in their mind. The main connection is in the essence. And therefore, the essence of that person, both in the person who has to give and the person who has to receive, is beyond logic, like the whole mimer of the Basik Lagani. Higher than any kind of situation you can say, you do have to do, you don't have to. This Yid is an nefesh kiss that needs to have to know what it means to be a Jew. When one essence connects to the next essence, then you don't start measuring. Why the person, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Should I dedicate my time? Should I dedicate my time? This person's lacking, you give it to that person. When you see someone that's missing excellence, and even if he's just lacking a little bit, then the yid's lacking a little bit, and like it comes to want, the want is not fulfilled unless it's 100% done. You can't say, okay, whatever, you did a little bit, I wanted more, I did a little bit. The person's ratzon has to be 100%. The desire has to be fulfilled. And therefore you give your whole essence. So this person, you say, well, I have to put time, this person should get excellence. The person's learning Torah, the person is doing mitzvahs. I have to sit there and put energy that this person should learn Torah on a higher level, learn chassidus on a higher level. But if it's an essence, the essence has to be complete. It doesn't make a difference if what the issue is. The same thing when it comes to reminding this person, another person, that they're even a Jew. That you have a title of a Jew. Why does it mean B'Shem Hashem Yechuna? B'Shem Yisrael Yechuna means it's so concealed in the person. It's only like a nickname. It's only like a nickname to you. It's not your. It's seemingly so concealed that it only reveals itself in a nickname. Even to that person, the Friedrich Rebbe gives over in a way of Mesiras Nefesh. And why? Because when it comes to avodah, everything has to be 100%. When it comes to avodah, you have to do it in the detail and it has to be organized. In one place, if you have to organize that, there should be a teacher that comes and teaches to the public school kids or to the public school adults. You have to find the teacher, right one. The mammon is a kartisim, you have to buy them the ticket, to take the train, to take the plane. Lawyers tell them where to go. Ma'alav lasses, what does he have to do? Okay, it's a disaster. How do you work it out? So too, when it comes to the person, that the Friedrich Rebbe is demanding excellence. Why aren't you learning a whole Thursday night chassidus? Why aren't you davening Shabbos like a man, 3 hours, like a chassid is, like the Alter Rebbe says? Much more than you are. The Friedrich Rebbe gives 100% to that. That you should see self-sacrifice in both the way the Rebbe is doing it and the way the Rebbe is demanding it from a chassid. Just finish this paragraph. So we're going to stop here. Let's start tomorrow with Sif Tisva. All right. That's everyone, and a meaningful Yud Shvat.